I'm going to do the Nigel thing. There's a great Esther Perel quote. How's my impression? So I was reading this thing the other day. This is great.
That's so good, dude. You and I, obviously, the Imaginary Friends co-host, having these conversations about these stories and friendships and exploring what it looks like to just be human. I would love to know, like, what are some things that you really look for in friendship? And what are some stories of kind of camaraderie where people have come around you in a time of need that you had so that you all could achieve something together?
That's a great question. For me, the best exemplar of friendship and doing life with someone at that level was the band. For those that don't know, I was in a band for a long, long time with my best friends, and we're still so close to this day. And it wasn't perfectly evident while I was in the band that that was the thing that made it so fun and special. Thought it was our music, thought it was our talents, our abilities, the charisma we had on stage. But when the band came to an end, which is a story for another time, I tried to do it elsewhere. I was like, okay, I love this thing. I love playing music on stage, especially. I'll just go get on tour with somebody else. I did. I'm 2 days into it, somewhere in, I don't know, Maryland. And, I f***ing hate this. Why do I hate this? What's different? I'm playing music. I'm on stage. That's fun. The crowds are good. Like, why does this suck so much? I was like, oh, light bulb moment. The thing that was so fun about it, the thing that made all the shitty parts worth it, was doing it with my best friends. Obviously that doesn't mean everything was easy. There was lots of little tiffs and fights and,
brother stuff.
Yeah. We're living in a 15-passenger van together for weeks on end, sleeping on the floors of Best Westerns. But that was the thing that made it okay. When I was sleeping in a Best Western, it was like a job. I was like, this is not tight.
Yeah.
Why is this not tight? And it's because I missed my friends. To do that for so long with a group of guys that I cared deeply about me, cared deeply about each other, it was so special. It will always be such a special moment in time for me. It's the most transformative season of my life. I was always trying to find that sense of belonging. And then now that it's gone, I tried to find ways to recreate it or manufacture it. And it's never the same thing as 5 guys in a van together, creating music, making records, doing everything together with one singular focus in mind. We're best friends, and this is what we want for our life.
I feel that, man. I think there's really something to be said about the spaces we occupy with other people, the memories we create with other people, and the intentionality that goes into curating those things. And it sounds like you had a really beautiful time with your brothers, recording music, being on the road, doing all the things. And I feel you in the replication of those, kind of trying to find it afterwards. I was with a friend recently and he said, man, I wish that there was a way to know that you were in the midst of the good old days while you're in the midst of the good old days.
Wouldn't that be nice?
If I got one superpower, maybe it would be that. The interesting thing that I'm kind of researching right now as it pertains to friendship is that we're in this, what they're referring to as a friendship recession. A lot of people are losing close friends that they've been friends with for decades. And that also there's a rise in people not being able to identify having a close friend or a best friend in general. So there's the absence of community through this idea of learned loneliness that happened to us in the pandemic. And then there's the issue that continues to create itself of people you've been friends with for a long time, slowly starting to like trickle down and get away from what it used to be. Why do you think people are losing friends in such rapid capacity?
I think it's easy to blame the internet, and social media and the lack of actual individual connectivity we have. I'd be curious, though, to take that study farther back and like, what is that stat from 1910 to 1990? As we get older, we hit our 30s and 40s, you can wake up and look around and go, oh my God, where'd all my friends go? I used to have a lot of these things. Like I used to have a whole group. We'd show up at the same place, like without having to like overly communicate about it. As men, we pick up so much responsibility that thing that is really important, friendships, thing that be life-giving, that go on the back burner and becomes another thing that has to be scheduled. I remember growing up, a lot of friends in my life, and my dad had no friends at all. The guy who he considered his best friend didn't consider him his best friend back. They saw each other once every few months, and I remember thinking, I never want to end up like that. I never want to be that. Like, I feel like that was a choice, and I can choose to do differently. And now I find myself at 40, I'm in the same zone. Like I look around and go, okay, well, yes, I can name my really good friends. How often do I see them? What is the community we're building together? What's the regularity with which we see each other and feed into each other's lives? It's like text messages, you know? And that sucks. But I can look back and like kind of connect the dots of life and see how we all got here. I get really challenged when I want to be like, hey, let's wake up. Let's fix this. I was like, well, I'd love to, but there's this, that, and the other. Can you get lunch 3 Thursdays from now? It's like, we got to prioritize this because it is so important, because you can wake up and find yourself extremely lonely one day. And it's confusing how you got there.
I take friendship very serious. And like, obviously, if you know me, I'm a very playful person. Like I love to fool around. Like I love to not take things serious. But I do think that I've learned at now 30 years old that the most important thing to me is friends. We have to feel safe around people, and we need to feel seen by people. Safety and being seen really hold hands together when it comes to the formation of friendship. You think about a dispute that you might have with a friend or a disagreement, and that friend doesn't come to you and share their frustration or want to walk or talk through that. That means that they think that you're not safe enough to have that discussion with, which then feeds into the fact that like, oh, well, maybe you don't actually see me as I'm showing up trying to serve you and love on you and give care and compassion to you. And I think those are the real things that make friendship fall apart. It's those really hard, difficult, uncomfortable conversations are the things that really progress friendship and push it forward and allow you to be more intimate with somebody and more vulnerable with somebody. Because when you're seen and when you're safe and when you have the ability to see somebody else and make sure that they feel safe too, that friendship can flourish light years beyond what you could have ever imagined.
I so agree with you. And I think it takes a few steps. So like one, that person has to opt into that. I've had plenty of friends that they don't want to opt into that level of depth, right? They want to talk baseball and the weather and everything we used to do, you know, together. That rhymed. That was pretty tight. I fancy myself kind of a lyricist.
I love it.
They retreat when you try and get to those conversations. Those can be good conversations, really tough conversations. But as our really good friend Carl Lubba says, is they don't have to be when you start with the right questions. And I think what I'm learning, what feels safe to me, what feels seen to me, doesn't mean that I'm reflecting that back right on a friend. It's like, what are the right questions to ask? Like, what makes you feel seen? What makes you feel safe? You know, for me, it's like, hey, I saw you did that thing. I saw you working on this podcast. That's really great. I'm proud of you. That makes me feel awesome.
Yeah.
You know, for some people, that's not their love language, the way they want to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I get in the trap going like, well, I'm seeing this person. I'm giving them this sort of validation, this sort of safety, when in actuality, I never asked them, is that what makes you feel seen? Is that the safety you want?
Yeah.
And if not, what is it? How can I show up better for you as a friend? Because here's what I need, and what do you need?
What you're really saying too is like love is willing to learn. Mm-hmm. And when you think about romantic partnerships, you're going to show up and you've got the ways that you have been programmed, or at least learned how to love people. Until you get to know that person, all you know how to do is love them in the ways that you've learned how to love. Mm-hmm. But the vulnerability and the intimacy that's created in that space is you being like, okay, this is how I know how to do it, but you're asking me to do it in another way. And I care about this enough in my friendship with you. I care about this enough in my relationship with you to learn how you need to be loved and what helps you receive the things that are going to allow our friendship or relationship to flourish.
Yeah.
I was studying this article recently, and they were talking about how in male depression, and we don't talk about this enough. We know that men are struggling mentally and emotionally and have anxiety and are depressed. They were saying that a lot of men will retract themselves from situations and stop engaging socially when they're depressed.
Totally.
They will say yes to things, but then say no to things when it's time for that thing to happen. And we just do a really, really good job at isolating when we really need people. But because of the mental state and emotional instability, it's hard for us to express the things that we need. There's a sensitivity and a gentleness that goes into someone engaging with you. And like we talked about on the last episode, if we're willing to be more curious than judgmental, we can go so much further in our friendship with people. How do you explain to a person who has their mind made up in judgment instead of being curious that like, hey, I'm actually really struggling mentally and emotionally. And the reason why I've backed out of us supposedly hanging out the last couple of times has to do with the fact that like my life is quite literally upside down at the moment. I have another very dear friend. He has a health condition that he battles and deals with. And I did not do a great job showing up for him when he was in a really dark season in his life. And we're all in the same group chat. And he ended up calling me a bitch in the group chat. I ate that. And I was like, oh, that hurts. And obviously for another man to call another man a bitch, that's like, I must have really done something wrong. So I felt that like nasty, frustrated emotion, but I also said to myself, like, there's something here that has to be explored. And so I got him on the phone like a day later and I was like, hey, can you just like tell me what brought you to this place of, being mad or angry or frustrated with me? And he was like, bro, I literally almost died. And all the friends that we have in our friend group are coming to visit me at the hospital and checking in on me. And you was radio silent. And I was. And it wasn't intentional. Relationship at the time, job at the time, getting more opportunities than I'd ever had before. I was on the road traveling. I was so self-centered and consumed with my own life that I wasn't willing enough to step outside of my experiences to check on somebody that I love very much. This guy to this day, because we had that conversation, he's always been one of my best friends. This dude and I are super tight now.
And it wasn't that you weren't willing. You've read the 4 agreements.
Oh yeah, right? Don Miguel Ruiz, that's my guy.
The part about assumptions is massive. It's just like, think about it. Assumptions are the root of all trouble in the world. He's not saying that lightly. Like talking like interpersonal stuff all the way to massive social, global upheavals. It's assumptions, what it comes down to. We all have a responsibility to get ahead of them, which is, if I bring it back to you and your friend is assuming you don't care. You're selfish, right? And you're assuming I'm going about my life. He's good and taken care of, and I'm assuming I'm checking in enough, and then it hits a breaking point, and you get called a bitch in a group text when like the right thing to do in hindsight is him to go, hey man, here's what I need in this season of life. I know you. You're not a selfish guy. I don't want to assume that's what you're doing, but here's how I miss you in my life right now. Bring it back to compassion, understanding, and genuine care for the other person. And they go, oh shit, you're right. Sorry, I have been going about my life. And thank you for saying something. Let me step up in the ways in which you need me right now.
Yeah.
If we hold on to these assumptions like, oh, he should know.
Yeah.
Nigel, he knows.
Yeah.
He knows.
Yeah.
And the truth is you didn't.
Yeah.
Our lives are meaningful to us. It's always going to be the most meaningful thing in our life is our own lives. We can sometimes forget to care in the ways we love to care for people. And we need to be reminded that, hey, I'm missing your care.
The big part of this conversation is the accountability and vulnerability required to realize and be humble enough to accept the fact that you have never been on the other side of you.
Yeah.
You might be going about your life living in a way that's pleasing to you, that service is to you, that feels good and comfortable to you. And unbeknownst to you, because you're not on the other side of your experience, somebody else can be experiencing you in a drastically different way. And the things that seem not harmful to you because you're not doing anything intentionally to get in anybody's way can be hurtful and harmful to another person, especially the people that you're the closest to, and specifically a scenario like that. So
4 Agreement says, take nothing personally. If we could truly take nothing personally, and like when we get feedback like that, just go, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. And like get curious, because there is nothing to take offense to, because we're all doing every single moment for the first time. And all we're gathering is input on how to keep moving forward and do better. What is it we're so proud of in that moment where someone like reaches out for more of you, you know, that makes us go, oh man, that my shit's good. Like,
yeah,
it's like, oh, okay. Like, let me.
I really do think that curiosity is the thing that connects us all. And I hate to sound repetitive, but I just think that that's so real. If I don't have a genuine curiosity about the things that pique my interest or frustrate me about how I'm experiencing you as a person, like, will we ever talk about it, or will I just go on assuming? I've been having, really good conversations with a young lady, and we established recently that we're not leaving any room to assume, that we would much rather send a voice memo or get on the phone or send a lengthy text message that we can talk about tomorrow, so that neither one of us has to go to bed at night frustrated or anxious or feeling away in our own minds with the reality that we've created without checking it against what it is that might be actually true.
This is like a 2024 version of like a self-help steamy romance novel. I'm getting sweaty over here.
She's so cool, and I really do enjoy communicating with her.
He loves communicating with her. Since the last time we did this, I've ended up in a really special, beautiful relationship. And we had the same conversations like immediately. Like assumptions have killed my relationships in the past. They kill everything. It's like, let's take that out of the equation. Like you said, totally. Let's take it completely out of the equation as best as you can, right? And use that as an opportunity to ask questions. And I think we've seen the fruits of that approach, but it does take learning things the hard way.
And it's learning. I think the only thing I'm after anymore when it comes to friendship with people is an understanding. I just want to get on the same page with you so that if we do have a moment of conflict, there's like a precedent that's like preset so that we know everything's all right in the midst of conflict, because conflict's not a bad thing if you know how to do it well. When you're, rubbing up against the tension, or you've got a really difficult topic that you're, discussing with someone, we're getting ready to come up on, an election. A lot happening in politics and society and culture right now. It can be really hard to engage with people.
I had no idea.
Look, man, I've adopted a trait inside of me based on a quote from Keanu Reeves. And I wish I could verbatim share this quote, but he's just like, man, you could tell me that the sky is blue. And it is. You could also tell me that the sky is red, and it is. I'm at the point in my adulthood where I no longer feel the need to argue with people.
Yep.
I don't have that corrective gene in me anymore that wants everything to be like made right in a moment. People are where they are, and it's more important for me to walk with people as they figure things out and as they express themselves, and at least create a space that's safe enough for them to express that, than it is for me and you to agree and believe in the same thing, and for us to create this very insular, homogenous community that ends up being more dangerous than it does divine.
And there's also time to go, like, let them have that. Because at the end of the day, like, me being right about something minuscule, it only serves to break connection. But it does take, like, the understanding and awareness, like, I'm letting them have this one because my eyes are on the bigger thing here.
Yeah.
And it fucking kills me. It's not blue.
It is.
I know it's not blue, but I'm going to let you have this
You
one.
got it. You got it. Because I would rather you go home and, sleep well at night, and me go home and sleep well at night, than for us to be at extreme odds with each other over a really simple disagreement.
Yep. So I have a question for you.
Yeah, please.
When does it become enough? You've had enough of these vulnerable conversations where you've like, I've done the reaching out. I've said in a compassionate way, I've said how you are making me feel showing up in this friendship. I find at points like that kind of reaching out, it becomes kind of fucking embarrassing.
It does.
Here's Andrew again, like telling me what he needs. Like, I'm a man. Like, I just want the baseball and the weather.
Yeah.
It's like, when do you go, okay, I'm going to change my expectations, but then I'm also going to give less to this. I find I've never been able to do that. Like in my mind, I'll go like, okay, I need to change my expectations. I need to give less, expect less. And then when it happens again, I don't know why I'm so disappointed.
A couple things really come to mind. I think you just can't make people conform to what is your norm. You do have a due diligence in friendship or partnership, professionally, personally, romantically, to let people know where you're at. Whether they choose to meet you there or not is completely up to them.
Totally.
I think after you've taken the time to express yourself and let the felt need that you have be known, their response tells you everything that you need to know. I'm just going to be honest with you, bro. I have lost some really special people to me because of the way that I've evolved, because of the way that my opinion has changed, because of the perspective that I have, because of my exposure and life experiences in the last decade. I realized that like my exposure to these depths of life in these different communities, spiritually and politically and ethnically and religiously, have just created in me this like depth of experience that lets me see when my friend makes a comment about something he or she doesn't really know about, and I have to do the corrective justice thing. I shouldn't have to do that more than like 2 or 3 times, because you realize that I'm now living different than you're living. And I'm not trying to force my belief or the way that I act on you. But like, if you say something that's hurtful to a group of people and I tell you repetitively that it's hurtful to that group of people, and you know it's offensive to me on behalf of these people, why do you keep doing it? Again, you can't make people conform to what's your norm. You also can't have an expectation for them to change based on your experiences too. Things evolve and become what they become. And when we leave an open-handed approach to friendship, our expectations won't lead us to disappointments. And when I can remove that from my mind of like, I need this or want this from that person, and just be like, you know what, that person's going to give me what they're giving me. And if it's not what I know that I need from them, I still sleep like a baby at night, knowing good and well that I can give me in place of what it was I wish that they gave me. And that's enough.
There's a part of it for me too that's very like, obviously friendships, relationships, they're reciprocal. It's like, not only do I wish you would like champion me more, but like also like let me into you. Let's open these doors and let me be that for you too. Like, here's what I need. I know you need something. Let's share this thing.
Relationships should be reciprocal. I'm learning, and I know that you're learning this too. I love that we're having this conversation. We had a very real conversation last week.
Yes.
You and I.
We did.
call each other. You were somewhere off in the world doing your thing. I was somewhere off in the world doing our thing. We just felt like we needed to connect, and we just laid it out there on the table. That's the culture that we've created between us, is that we know that the space is open enough for both of us to be absolutely who we are. And we can learn in partnership with each other what's for you, what's for me, and what's for us. Mm-hmm. And I think that it honestly has to do with the fact that both of us, it's pure hearted humility that both of us have. And I love you and you love me. And we're able to connect in a really unique way that a lot of other people aren't, due to the fact that neither one of us are showing up with an agenda.
I think it gets real simple when you bring it back to the main thing. This is our first creative endeavor, like together, right? Obviously, there's butting heads, there's conflicting opinions. But when you bring it down to the fact of, hey, what is it we're actually butting heads over? A thing we both care deeply about.
Yeah.
And that's the thing to keep at the forefront. Is it's a good problem to have. How can we keep that first and foremost, and then realizing what we have around it is just, it's our ideas, and we both need to be seen and heard and understood in those ways. I'm going to do the Nigel thing. There's a great Esther Perel quote. How's my impression? So I was reading this thing the other day. This is great.
That's so good, dude.
She's talking about her relationship with her husband, about all you have in a relationship is 100%. It's not like I have 100%, you have 100%. There's just 100%. And that ebbs and flows. And based on what you both have to bring to the table, somebody's got to be 80% and the other person's 20. But it can't live in that state of 80-20.
I wonder if people know how precious friendship actually is. When I tell you that I go to bed at night and sleep very well, knowing that people are praying for me and knowing that I'm deeply loved, knowing that I'm deeply known, knowing that people see me and show up into my life and let me experience them without agenda, I realize the divine privilege that it is to be in friendship and relationship with people who hold space for that kind of stuff.
It's amazing, you know that. It comes back to what you said earlier. It's like, wish we could know when the good old days were in them. I think the human condition is you never know how good something is until it's gone. I'm in it with my daughter right now. She's turning 7. Like it's there's so much change happening for her, and she's not the sweet little 2-year-old, 3-year-old. If I'm not careful, I'll miss this moment, missing the previous moment that I wasn't in because I was missing the previous moment.
Yeah.
And it'll be 10 years down the road. I'll be like, damn, those were the good old days.
Bro.
Well, I'm longing for the good old days while in this version of them. And I think when that comes back to friendship, it's unfortunate, and for me, because I've lived it viscerally, didn't know what great friends I had and how much that meant to me and what a special thing it was to have that constant in and out access to someone else's life until it was absent from my life. They go, then it takes soul searching. Like, what's missing here?
It's finite, man. And I just wonder if we get it some days. And it's taking losing friends, both physically and like metaphorically, to help me realize, 1, how short life is, and 2, how precious friendships and relationships are. I was headed to sabbatical last year, and like we're at 6 hours into an 8-hour flight, and I'm scrolling Instagram and I see somebody post that this very dear friend of mine is no longer with us. We're talking about a young person. I melted into a chocolate puddle on that plane and was like so heartbroken. The fact that like we were on the phone a week before they were no longer here on this planet.
Yeah, and that's the fragility of life. You know, we talked about Marcus Aurelius last time. He talks about that often. This thing can be gone in an instant. But what I don't think we can do, because revisionist history is like the worst kind of drug of, oh, I could have done this. I could have done this. I could have done so much more. It's like you think about having to do that for literally every person in your life based on the fact that they could go away at any moment.
Yeah.
You'll never stop. That's a hard thing to sit with, of knowing I could have done more. And I think that often comes down to like looking at micro moments. But if you can look back at it with the holistic big picture, it's like, no, was there. It's a good friend. You know, I think a lot of people have regret, especially when somebody passes suddenly. Like, oh, my last interaction was a fight. My last interaction was this. And that then somehow defines the entire thing. That's a hard thing to live with if you don't look at the big picture of the thing. But the finality of moments, that is an actual thing to carry. For me, I find it happening so often with my daughter. And she's about to turn 7. She doesn't take baths anymore. She takes showers. But there was no ceremonial last bath.
It just was the last bath.
Just the last one was the last one. I don't even know which one it was.
Yeah.
You know, there's only so much presence you can have in every small thing and fear the finality of it that actually takes you out of the presence of enjoying it.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that would happen less if we didn't wait to reflect until we started to feel regret. And I think that I've definitely found myself in moments like that too previously, where like I don't reflect on the importance of something until I start to feel like deep regret. If I just can accept the fact that like things quite literally are what they are, and the only thing that I'm responsible for is my ability to respond to that thing, not reacting, but responding, being very intentional about the way that we process and digest information, what are you going to do with it? And not letting reflection have to occur until regret starts to instill itself inside of you post-experience. We've talked a lot about friendship and things that have worked, things that haven't worked, things that we felt, places where we felt like we weren't welcome, things that have dissolved. What does Andrew need in a friendship to make a friendship worth being in?
It's a great question. I think for a long time when I looked at friendships and at relationships, desire for validation and to be seen in that way felt like a self-indulgent crutch. And I've had a mentality shift around this. Like, no, it's something I need because there was something missing from my life when I was young. Just being told, hey, I see what you did, and I'm proud of you for that. And I think it was really good, you know. And the best way to have that is not just like anything you do or putting out in the world is like it's always good. It's always good. But the fact of just being seen, I'm doing something, appreciate your effort. I really like when people want to go deeper with me about the things I'm doing. And they don't always have to be good. Like that, like I don't just want to be told it's good, it's good, it's good. It's more like, hey, it's just acknowledging effort and creative endeavors. It matters to me that that's seen and acknowledged, whether it's liked or not. Just the very act of saying it and wanting to have a conversation around it is plenty for me. Now, what I look for in a friend, it's hard not to answer that question without it being a selfish answer. But what I am looking for is an opportunity to help, to be needed. And I want to surround myself with people that I admire and respect and strive to do something they are doing. And the most important part, the third part, it's just a great hang. So much in life comes down to just a great hang, having fun, being able to laugh. Like you and me, like was it you and I? My mom, if she's watching this, she's just pulling her hair out. The thing that spawned imaginary friends was just our organic conversations.
Yeah.
Like getting real introspective, hearing each other, and then just like laughing like hell at the same time through all of it. Like that levity is an important balance. Those are my answers to those questions. What are yours?
Oh, man. I think the best way to explain it is to give 2 examples of places that I love. Chrome Yellow and Staple House are two of my favorite establishments in the city of Atlanta. And I'll tell you why. Every time I walk into Chrome Yellow, I've been there so frequently that the baristas know what I'm probably going to order. And if it's not what I'm feeling that day, they'll probably know what my other order would be too. Greet me with a smile, ask me how I'm doing, ask me how my weekend was, what am I up to today? If I tell them something last week and they see me a week after, they ask me how the thing last week went. The people who you meet in that space are just magnificent. People who own restaurants, people who work in tech, people who are just the kindest, most genuine, authentic people in the world somehow occupy that space. And I've had the privilege and beauty of connecting with them. What are the elements behind Chrome Yellow and what are the elements behind Staple House? One, people are intentional. They have a vested interest for whatever reason in being intentional with connecting with you. They're curious. They want to know what's going on in your life. And it's not said or done in a trite way. They really want to know. The way they dress, the way they present themselves, the way they show up, it's authentic. They're just going to be who they are, and they want you to be the same exact way. It feels safe enough for you to walk in, sit down anywhere you want, stay as long as you want. And you don't feel obligated to have to do anything extravagant in the space except just be there. And when I think about what I need in a friendship, what I'm looking for in a friendship, I'll be honest with you, I'm not looking for more friends.
Oh shit!
But
sorry, cut it. Show's over.
I love people to death, man. I really do. But I work with what I've got, and the way that I became friends with the people who I'm closest with now, it didn't happen because I just was like looking for friends or like I was needing anything in particular. They just happened to show up in a unique season of life. We connected organically and now we're like super tight. I think that the people I connect with the most are people who just let things happen organically. Look at the beauty of imaginary friends, which we should probably speak to the importance of imaginary friends.
Yes.
We're going to tell you stories on this show. We're going to talk about our favorite authors and our favorite quotes and our favorite keynote speakers. But Andrew, you and I are quite literally people's imaginary friends. We're friends that encourage your imagination, who want to walk with you in your creativity and your innovation, your desire to design. We're cool people and like we're special to each other. I can't necessarily say we're special to the people behind the camera, but like all we want to do in this space is create the kind of space that we wish we had to.
Totally. And I mean, let's be honest. We're cool.
Come on,
we know
man.
We're cool.
Come on, man. You know what it is.
We know it. Like, let's not be coy and sit at home and be like, these assholes, they know they're cool. Like, yeah, it's honestly been a trait that's plagued me my entire life. The cool guy.
Yeah, man.
You know, which there's a guard that has to come down around that because I think people are intimidated by the effortless nature being cool in which we carry that. Yeah. But there's a cool guy persona and then there's just being cool. And like, it is very cool to be deeply empathetic and compassionate and care and look someone in the eyes and want to understand deeply their life experience. And I think that's not people's first impression of me. And then they get to know me and like, oh, you're actually pretty cool. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Time, attention, equity, man.
Yeah.
What are some things that like you look forward to giving away when it comes to people you're connected to in friendship?
Everything. Life is too short to withhold anything. With whatever time I have left, which I hope is a ton of it, I want to give everything freely and transparently. I've got this tattoo. Where's the one with the hand?
Over here.
Here?
Bro, it's tatted up. It's with it's with a leaf.
Is it this one?
It's that one. Okay. It's over here. It's on the other side.
This side?
Yes.
Okay.
I wish I had so many tattoos I forgot where they were.
I forget about a lot of them until I look in the mirror and go, holy shit, you got a lot of these, my man. But that tattoo specifically means be generous. Approach every interaction with generosity and leave no one wanting. I find a lot of fulfillment in being like really disarming up front. Like take what you want for free and would love for you to come back in some capacity, whether it's friendship, whether it's business. But here's what I have to offer you in this moment, offer the world. I gain nothing by keeping that for myself.
Yeah. I can very easily see in this very wound tight world that we live in, where you don't know where a lot of people stand, or you do know where people stand, and it makes you feel very uncomfortable. It's not that I'm neutral on a lot of things, but I never want my opinions to like outweigh my character. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that I just want it to be a safe space that's non-anxious for people so that they can come into the spaces I occupy and feel rested when they leave. And I realize that like not every interaction is going to go the same way. Sometimes it's going to be fun and playful and joyful. And then other times it's going to be like serious and weighty and heavy. But like, isn't that like the entirety of life and humanity? It's all things. It's highs and lows. It's undulation. It's heaviness and hardship and beauty and all the things that exist in between. I want people to know that in friendship with me, they will always be respected. They'll always be loved unconditionally in the best way that I possibly know how, that there will be accountability when mistakes are made, and that I have no problem owning up to the things that I've done or said or the way that I might have wronged someone. There will always be grace and forgiveness. And at the core of it all, I really just hope that like people experience the like love and heart of God in the friendship that we have together in a way that maybe they haven't previously. And I want friendship to be redemptive for people who I'm in relationship with, in the same way that a lot of us are wronged in spaces that other people have occupied from poor stewardship. Then we go into a space getting the same opportunity. We have the ability to redeem that. I think it's the same for friendship, man. How many people have broken your heart? How many people have wronged you? How many people have spoken poorly about you? How many people have talked about you behind your back? A good friend of mine, Jordan Sasser, I hope he sees this and watches this.
I know Jordan.
Listen, man.
What a talent that family is.
The whole family, just ridiculously talented, beautiful, loving, compassionate, caring. He said something so profound, like 6 months into our friendship. He was like, I never want people to have to guess how I feel about them. And if you know him, you love him because he expresses so genuinely and authentically what he feels about you, and has you just know, you know what I mean? And so I want to tear a page out of his book, and like, I want people to know that they're ridiculously loved and that like they don't ever have to guess when they're around me. The flip side of that is if I don't like you, you're probably going to know that I don't like you too. And not trying to be an asshole.
Thank God.
But it just is what it is. If I don't like you, then like, unfortunately and fortunately, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I have no problem letting you know that I don't like you. And people know that know me that I don't like them, and God bless them. Oh, come on. God bless you, baby. God bless you. Conflict is marketable. Nathan and I were kind of talking off camera about Drake and Kendrick and Drake and Future.
I got a lot of opinions.
When you think about Drake and Future, they gave us What a Time to Be Alive, an incredible album that so many of us listened to at different times in our lives, and we loved it. They made great music together, classic music together. Isn't it so interesting, though, that their beef spawned a reality where they felt more comfortable walking into a booth and making disrespectful music that will live on forever about each other, instead of just like nipping it in the bud and calling each other to like talk through the issues that they had? Beef is marketable. And in the same way that beef is marketable, misery loves company. And you think about how gossip works. If I feel a way about a person, the immature thing to do is pick up the phone to invite other people into this thing so that I could do the ABCs and affirm what I'm thinking, build bias around what it is that I believe, and confirm over time that this thing has to be true.
Beef has always been marketable. I mean, like, hip hop, it has unfortunately like been super marketable, but it's not exclusive to hip hop. I mean, you know the band Oasis.
No, right? Oasis. I said maybe.
It's really good.
Put me on the BGVs, baby.
That's not BGV. That's the lead.
Nah,
that's the chorus right there. The Gallagher brothers, notorious for fighting in public, to the point they were working on music in a studio. The two brothers got in an argument, and the engineer just let it roll.
Shut up, right? He gets off the ferry. Marcus says, what are you doing? You know, what the wonderful.
Recording this thing.
Recording it.
What are you doing?
They then released it. It's 2 tracks, Liam's track and Noel's track. It stayed at the number 1 in the UK. It was weeks and weeks, and it's a terrible audio recording. You can't even hear what they're saying, but it's 2 brothers arguing. Nothing more, nothing less. It's not mixed, mastered, and people bought it like crazy because people love to watch people fight like they fight in their own lives.
I hate that.
It sucks. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. His take on the Kendrick Drake thing was, this is the most important musical moment in my life. I could not disagree more. Watching these 2 grown men with so much to give the world, so much platform to just have this petty fight. And he's like, yeah, but like, think about it. It's hip hop legacy. Look at Biggie, Tupac. It was like, the last thing the world needs is more dead great black men because they had some sort of beef with each other. That's such a f***ing shame. And I get it. It's legacy, but like, that's not something I feel comfortable like celebrating. If there is an actual beef there, pick up the phone. But there's so much money to be made that it seems like they're both laughing all the way to the bank. As a dude who is a big Drake fan and a big Kendrick fan, I was Team Drake on this one. I was like, make Kendrick look small for going this hard on something. Like, this is the man that made To Pimp a Butterfly. Like, this is the man that has important things to say about community. I know there's a bigger message about community, but most people are walking away with like, you're really going this hard on Drake? Like, he's Coldplay, man. Like, what important punk band with a lot to say, like dedicating their most important work to like taking down Coldplay.
I mean, this is probably Kendrick's biggest song.
It is. It's like, it's not just his biggest song. It's like one of the biggest songs of all time.
Of all time.
And you really want to be pointed at somebody at Coldplay?
I feel you, bro. I was laying in the bed one night and our group chat is like exploding at 11:45 or whenever Drake dropped Family Matters. And then less than 10 minutes after that, Kendrick drops Meet the Grams. And it was a cultural moment. But what's it, I guess, to your point, what's it worth at the end of the day? Clicks, streams, plays, conversation, barbershop talk, when realistically both of us are demonizing each other over allegations because none of this stuff has been proven. There are theories around it, but what is that again? It's ABCs, it's affirming, it's building bias, and it's confirming. And so I think that, to your point, there's a lot to be said about like, my pride wouldn't feel as good about this tension that I feel with you if we called each other and did the equitable thing of squashing what we feel and holding space for each other to be vulnerable and saying, I'm wrong, you're wrong, I'm right here, you're right here, this is where we can meet in the middle. Instead, let me call 20 other people to reinforce this belief that I have about you instead of calling you directly so that we could squash this thing together. The songs was fire though, I ain't gonna lie.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah.
Them songs was hitting. I was out there like,
But like,
I think as we kind of close it down, I would love for you to maybe share a message in the same way that we did on the last episode to our 3rd grade selves, to our imaginary friends out there in the world. What would be a message that you would send as it pertains to the topics of today that we've discovered and explored, like friendship, community, forgiveness, accountability, somewhere in that matrix, if you will, of topics? What would you pick out and kind of send it out into our imaginary friends in the world?
It's a great question. Can you start?
Yeah, sure. What message would I send, man? I think,
for the record, I'm just going to pick whatever one he goes with.
I think the hard conversation is always worth it. whether it's with a romantic partner or a friend or somebody that you're working in business with, the hard conversation is always worth it, and you will always be better off for it. You never get to the end of a really hard conversation that leads to clarity and say, gosh, I wish we wouldn't have had that conversation. My message, I guess, to the folks out there would be, if you got healing spaces, utilize them. If you don't have healing spaces, look for them, or maybe you're the one that has to create them.
Again, I said I was going to take yours and just go with it, but there's a piece of it I am. It's like, I've always shied away from the hard conversation in my life. And learning that hard conversation doesn't have to be hard if it's started and framed well, again, framed with curiosity, has been such a big takeaway. Let me start with asking a question and understanding versus here's my thing. Now you respond with your thing. Like, approaching hard conversations that way has been so freeing. I think the biggest one I would tell to my third grade self, to kind of stay true to the question, is some advice my dad has started to give me, which truthfully, I wish he gave me a lot sooner in life, which is mitigate the worry. Don't worry so much about the potential of bad things happening. One, you can't control that. Two, 99% of those things don't ever end up happening. The mental bandwidth that takes away and the years it takes away from our lives and the way it stops us from being present, and big things, small things, worrying about the next thing I'm going to say. What is that going to do to this dynamic? Or what's the big, grand piano looming in the sky that's going to fall that you can't control?
Yeah.
It's like, shut that down and just deal with what's in front of you. All you can ever do is the next right thing. Be satisfied with the answer.
I'm Nigel Darius.
I am Andrew Verso.
And this is Imaginary Friends.
Conversations you wish you had
with people you wish you knew. Episode 2 in the books.
Woo!